annoying? Yeah, maybe I can't share my screen and get your video. Oh no, you're there. I don't know why it doesn't, I don't know. I don't see you, which is kind of weird. It's kind of annoying that you're not there. There you go. Now you're back. You're back. You're back.
JP's machine.
Hey, don't blame it on
JP.
Don't blame it on my machine.
Maybe you need some new hardware.
I mean, maybe. I don't know. You know, I don't know. I don't know. I need to get off of all these preview things. I got like early Teams, early Windows, all this stuff. It just doesn't work. So
it is insane. Yeah. Yes. But we'll be setting up my my machine at some point, so we can also do OBS from my end if JP is failing. Look at the little tiny S at the bottom of my picture. Skype. Today's show is powered by Skype. Anyway, how is everyone? Community call today and community hours. We're gonna have some not operator issue. We don't know. I think it's operator issues. Who knows? We are going to talk a little bit about some of the news that were out in the week, and then we are going to go back into our normal build of Thrazman, which is exciting because there's a current poll. Take the poll, people. Should we announce it? Should we tell them?
Well, we may have to change because we may be streaming to lots of different channels at once, and so we have to coordinate our schedules across those. So we're trying to figure out the best time that fits into people's schedules because we don't want to be. I mean, obviously, you know, we appreciate the commitment of people coming out and watching us, and we want to make sure we're cognizant of everybody's time. I know that may not be obvious, given how much we talk and and get on about things that don't matter, but we're considering doing Monday and Friday. So I think Monday and Friday would be our biggest ones, where we would do Monday mornings, and we would do Friday mornings. So same time, but Monday and Friday, and we'd bump up an hour. So we'd start at 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern. On both days, so we're thinking about it. Let us know what you think. Obviously, we want to keep the folks we've got, so we don't want to end up blowing up anybody's thing. So, yeah, we're streaming today, Bolt.io. We might be switching stuff up. We're not sure yet, but we're definitely gonna keep doing it. We just need to figure out the best time that works, so we get on, so we can reach more people and spread the good word about Microsoft Identity. So,
why would we not be streaming today? What is the deal? Did something happen? Did I miss something overnight? And like there's a major disaster that, like, I checked Twitter this morning and everything was okay. So, I mean, okay to the point that you can think it's okay.
Well, we never go to the office anymore, so I don't know if my badge still works. So, I mean, I still got paid a few days ago, so I guess we're still doing okay.
I mean, they're not paying us. They're not paying us to do this one, so it's something we can do anyway, right? We don't have to work for Microsoft, although it is nice. Oh, it started at 5 past, so I thought it was cancelled. Yeah, that was us struggling with Teams issues and hardware and software. But we're here, and we need to be a little bit more diligent about our time, especially if we start broadcasting at the Microsoft Developer channel, because they have a bit of a strict schedule, so we need to be strict with ourselves. Yeah. So blame it on us this time, but we're here.
Well, the joke we used to have was that anytime we would go do an identity talk with a customer or at a conference or something, the general rule was you take 20 minutes of content for every 2 hours they expect you to be there, because you end up getting so many questions and there's so many discussions that it's like, okay, you know what, let's I'm not going to take a whole lot. I'm going to take 2 slides with me, and that's going to be it. So
yeah, the finger of blame. You're absolutely right. We're blaming something else, which in this case was hardware, software.
Yep. So
and not the fact that we didn't get up earlier in the morning to set everything up and be ready on time. So
I mean, everything was working at 9:30 when I got everything ready and everything seemed fine, and then I stepped out of my office for a minute and I came back in and Teams had said, "Oh, you're no longer in the meeting. Try again." And then I tried again 8 times, and yeah, it was just sort of a mess this morning. So now we're on Skype and it seems to be working. So If nothing else,
we're persevering. We're persevering. We're adapting and adjusting on the fly.
So I have a question too, right? So I have normal like 16:9 monitors, like and I used to use two, but I had two at home and two at the office, and so since I don't go to the office anymore, I brought the other two home. So now I ended up with four on my desk because I mean you can't put monitors in a closet, right? So
like nobody puts the monitor in the corner.
Yeah, nobody puts baby in the corner. Anyway, so I greatly prefer four monitors or three monitors at a minimum now. I've gotten really used to it. I greatly prefer it because having three separate monitors gives me all the windows snapping and like screen sharing is easier and stuff. But Christos has one of these ultra wide behemoths, like one of those giant, like what is it, 49 inches or something crazy?
No, it's not 49. I think it's 37.
Okay, well, okay,
but it still takes most of my desk.
Still enormous. So I'm really curious what other people use because I know that's a hot topic of debate. I personally can't stand the ultra wides because I don't get window snapping, and whenever somebody shares,
yes, you do. You do get window snapping.
What do you mean?
You know, that's snap window. Absolutely fine.
Well, yeah, but they snap on a, like I've got like 5 or 6 windows snapped now, like 2 on each one, right?
Right, fair enough.
So I got like 6 across, so I can see everything I need to work on.
It's funny because I used to change between my Windows and my Mac using the same screen, which is absolutely fine. And in fact, this monitor, this is an LG ultra wide, has 2 sources, so you can have 2 things connected at the same time. But you only display one source and you can easily switch between the 2. Anyway, every time I would switch to my Mac, I was missing the Windows snapping. And I found that there's an amazing software for Mac. Can't remember what it's called. I'll find out now in a second as my Mac is booting up. Yeah. And it allows you to do snapping all over the place. So on my ultra wide monitor, I could snap on 5 different places. And I could actually have lanes or stripes of windows all over the place, properly snapped.
Yeah.
So on a Mac, you pay, I don't know, I can't remember, I think $5 or $2, and you get proper snapping on ultra wide, and it worked flawlessly. So I don't know. I mean, I would like to have that kind of software for Windows. Maybe there is one already, and I didn't know about that. But now JP is trying to convince me to go back into smaller 27-inch monitors. I have multiple of those. Well, because so as long as my manager is happy to pay for it.
Well, see, every time you share your screen with me, it either A, doesn't work, or B, I see a strip of screen in the middle of mine, and it's completely not legible. So
yeah, so we can put the test. What I can do is I can grab one of my very old monitors, which are not 4K or high quality, and they're supposed to be working. And they're in the closet, actually. They're in the garage, sitting there, nice and quiet. I can grab one of those and put the test next week and see if that solves the problem or if it's actually my machine. It would be nice if you could do Windows desktops per screen.
Yeah, that would be kind of
nice. Windows desktops. Yeah, are you talking about virtual desktops?
Yeah, like I'll switch over to my virtual desktop. Like I keep different on the little.
I thought that looked like a torture device over there. Then I realized it's actually somebody lying, having 5 monitors.
Yeah, so I had a customer I went to go see, and they had these in their office, so people could go and plug in their laptop, and they would have these monitors all around. And and Christos does that a lot. He will screen share his VM.
Yep.
Instead of his whole desktop, and that seems to work pretty well.
In fact, I have my dev VM running right now, but Skype does not allow you to select a specific window. It goes full screen sharing, so not as advanced.
But yeah, so I thought this was cool. And so they had these things in the middle of their office, like right in the middle of the floor.
That is amazing, by the way.
And the whole thing leans back. So you can lean forward, you can lean back, you can lay on your back and have the screens mounted above you. I mean, it's pretty wild. But pretty intense, though.
Do your hands not get tired as you try to reach up to the keyboard? Like,
Well, I think that's the thing, is you get to just a place where it's effortless, right? Like, you just don't have to... You get to the right level of recline. Yeah, I saw the Scorpion one earlier. Scorpion... Office reclining chair. Yeah, this one. Look at that thing. It's completely bananas. Uh-oh. I don't know what happened to my thing here, but yeah, look at that.
Oh, you know what? Bing is having issues when you try to display an image. It just stops and crashes. That is scary, by the way. Almost looks like the Game of Thrones.
I think the thing is, like, for me, I look at this and I think about, my first thought is my children. And either A, one of them losing a limb and all of these pieces of metal that are mixing, or B, somebody tripping and falling on one of these, or C, me tripping and falling on one of these, and then laying down here in my office bleeding out for God knows how long before somebody comes in to check on me. Now, if it could walk around while it was working, I would totally buy that. Because imagine how intimidating that would be if you're in a meeting with people that you don't particularly like, and somebody says something you don't like, and the whole thing just kind of shudders and then kind of sits up a little bit closer. That'd be great. It'd be perfect. But I don't know. It's pretty wild. I'm sure it's also incredibly expensive.
Yeah, I don't think I can justify $10,000 for
it's not
such a thing.
It's not 10,000. It's maybe it is. I don't know. It looks like the one that it looks like its smoother brother is only $2,700 and free shipping. Can't get
free shipping.
Can't get it on Prime though. It's kind of lame, but
you know what? I would be terrified having to set that up as well because seriously, it doesn't come. I doubt that it comes fully assembled, so you have to put it together.
Yeah, and look at that. That much money and it's still fake leather. It's not even real leather.
I know. And also, I will need to buy a mansion to house my separate office, obviously, because as you said, it's going to cause problems with space. So the boss, my wife, will definitely not sign off on such a purchase.
This one has wheels. It has tracks. This is it. Yeah, if you want to get your pull request pushed through, this is how you do it.
This is insane.
It's got chain guns on it. And I'm actually kind of curious as to whether or not they're real.
Pretty sure you can mount some real ones if you can weld.
That's true. I guess you can mount chain guns to anything if you really wanted to. It's only 660 pounds before one of us gets in it.
Wow.
What kind of ammunition does it take?
Stephen Hawking would be alive if he had to. I mean, that's...
Anyway, look at that thing, though. I mean, that's pretty impressive.
Oh, wow.
I mean, Anyway.
I don't want to think what happens if that breaks or for whatever reason something happens.
So anyway, yeah, we're going to...
So we'll do some news.
It's quite literally Azure Edge. You put Azure on that chair, like an Azure IoT Edge. And you run your SQL DB on it and everything else, and then you can drive it around remotely. Think about the demo that would be. So you're talking at a user group back in the early days when we could still talk to humans face to face.
Yes.
And you're standing there talking, and it's like a totally normal presentation. And then you hear like this rumble, and then here comes your computer chair, rolling into the conference center like a tank. When nobody's in it, nobody knows what to do. Put cameras on the front so you can capture everybody's reaction, and then it just rolls in. I mean, if I saw that, I'd be like, okay, where do we sign up? Clearly, Azure is the future of is the platform for the future. Because look at this thing. Anyway, okay.
Wouldn't it be awesome though? Wouldn't it be awesome if you sign up for Azure, you get that as well?
Yeah, sign up for a free trial.
Marketing, if you're listening, that's how you get more people into Azure.
Yeah, although then your CIO that puts it in his office or her office, and then it's like, oh my god! Every time you go in there, the whole thing just sort of sits up straight, and it's like, I'm sorry, tell me more about this budget request.
Yeah.
Why did we have an outage again? Oh man. Anyway, so we had some good news this week. We had a lot of good news this week.
A lot of exciting news.
Yeah.
And super happy to announce them. Obviously, the biggest one. And you've probably seen it here first. It was fun when I put it on Twitter yesterday and somebody said, well, we heard it first at the 425 show. It's the Microsoft.NET Library, which came out in GA at some point this week. It's a little bit, it's like a bit vague. The blog post went out yesterday, but the library was in GA last week. Obviously, we had Jean-Marc the week before, so last Tuesday he was with us to talk about the package and the vision, and it's it's great to finally have it. So if you haven't heard about the Microsoft Identity Web, it's the new ASP.NET Core authentication and token management library that allows you to quickly get off the ground with a few lines of code. I don't want to take any more of the thunder because it's actually an amazing library. I did have a bit of a discussion yesterday on Twitter as well. JP also jumped on to correct me, and that is, where can you use Microsoft Identity Web? So we can use it on anything that is ASP.NET Core 3.1 and later. You cannot use it for Blazor WASM. Damn, I had to triple check this because I thought I was losing my marbles. So for Blazor WASM, we're not using the Microsoft Identity Web library if you're doing the standalone one, i.e. the SPA. So everything that emits a JavaScript file and you're done. That's because it's a server-side library. Now, if you're doing Blazor WASM with an API, then yes, that will have Microsoft Identity Web in the template. But the Blazor WASM one has a specific library that wraps around MSAL and does some interop magic, so you don't have to. And with that out in the air, because I was losing my mind yesterday. I spent probably an hour or 2 hours trying to figure out why the hell was I so wrong in this, which I wasn't, which is good to be vilified. Dude, I was seriously doubting myself. Like, did I get this wrong? Did I really get that wrong?
Well, no, but
am I being correct on Twitter?
You're just digging the hole, though. I mean, the fastest way to a right answer is to be incorrect on the internet, right? Because inevitably 1,000 people come in and say, So, but
well, I almost decided to stop talking when one of our engineers jumped on the conversation and said, no, Blazor WASM does support Microsoft Identity Web. I'm like, damn, I am wrong, which is fine. I don't mind admitting that I'm wrong, but at the same time, I did have a conversation with some of the PMs the day before, as we are working on the official doc, and I knew that the Identity Web was not there. So, putting the stuff. Anyway, you can download it today. Finally, there is a version 1.1, by the way, which meant that things changed in the last 2 days, and I was behind the news. But the current package version is 1.1, not 1.0. And we were having a couple of issues with the templates, which we're still investigating.
No, that's good. So, those were updated 8 hours ago. I think there was an Azure networking thing yesterday afternoon that caused some stuff to go a little sideways, and I think the template library was one of the casualties of that that network failure.
Yeah, I think it's still an issue this morning. So you will have to download and manually install if you need to. If you go into the Identity Web GitHub repo and go in the templates, at the very top there's a nice link that you can use to download the template, and then you can use the template to get off the ground. And many people have asked us about the templates, which is a very valid question. We are working very closely with the .NET team and the Visual Studio teams to make sure that the templates make it.
Looks like it's there now. Yeah, I think we're good now.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
So.
I checked like 10 minutes ago, but I was speaking to Jean-Marc like 10 minutes before we kicked off the stream. Right. So the official templates, when you go file new project and being able to get the latest files, will be available soon. I think the goal is to have it ready as part of the .NET 5. Again, not committing on hard dates, but just be aware that we are working on that. I think it does auth and then single org, and off you go.
Is it single org?
Mm-hmm.
Is that what it is? AU single org. Yeah, okay.
Yep.
AU single org. Uh-oh. I probably should have given that a name so that it doesn't try to put it into my root folder, because I am an idiot.
It's fine. You can go and delete the files.
That's all right.
Anyway, so that's off the ground, and we're super excited. In fact, between me and JP, we've done, 10 or 7 user group talks and conferences where we went and talked about the latest library and why the Microsoft Identity platform is great. And everybody seems to be super excited about this new library.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there you go. It's GA. It's been in the making for about a year now. So all this engineering effort comes to fruition.
Yeah.
And it's great. Oh, S. Marius Sorin. Sorry, I butchered that name. Has a question.
Okay, let's see. What do we have?
Says, I see that the policy is recommended and claims somehow less. The problem with policy is when you want to implement the same logic on front end and not so dynamic as you need to define at startup. We found that claims validation are more scalable if you want also to make front end validation. What would you recommend?
So, policy is recommended, so like an authorization policy. The problem with policy is when you want to implement the same logic on the front end and not so dynamic as you need to define at startup. We found claim validation is more scalable if you also want to make front end validation. So I'm kind of curious, when you say, so we want to implement the same logic on the front end and not so dynamic as you need to define at startup. So claims validation is more scalable if you want to make front end validation. So are these two? So your backend, is that just an API, like a web API, or is that also serving additional pages that need to be protected? Like, is it MVC plus web API plus another front end, or is it a front end and React or Angular or something that's talking to a backend API?
That is a good question. Yeah.
Because generally speaking, the guidance there is to have two separate app registrations. The first one is sort of independent of the second one in that the first one has a certain set of, okay, so it's Angular with a web API. So on the first side, let's go here and look. Let's look at this doc. So this is policy-based authorization. So this is where we set the policy for different things, right? So we can use roles here, and in fact, a lot of the role stuff falls underneath these authorization things. So creating policies, so you end up like this, right? Authorized policy. So like we've used these before and done claims validation as part of a policy. So add authentication. So say somehow configure services add authorization is not that dynamic. So, no, that's true. Yep. So you essentially are saying require claim when you're creating a specifically named policy. And then that specifically named policy is what's used later on in your controller actions or API actions or whatever. But yeah, it's sort of expected that you know what those are up front.
Yeah.
And in addition to that, the Angular app should be calling the API with an access token specific to that API. Not an ID token for the front-end app, but an ID token for the access token that the ID token or that the front-end app is requesting. So then you end up in a place where the claims you should expect in your access token for your API should always be the same, because the access token that's being issued is issued specifically for your application. So if I've got multiple front ends that are all talking to the same API, and we're going to have different claim sets or whatever for each one of them, that's going to be a problem if we're sending a token that's intended for the front end app to the back end, as opposed to using the front end token in the front end and getting an access token to talk to the back end, because then the back end is going to get the same consistent claim set regardless of which client is calling it. If that alone, it would be more about pivoting on certain values rather than pivoting on the names of the claims. But I don't think there'd be anything in. I don't think there'd be anything here that would really prevent you from going and fetching authorization policies, and fetching your claim names or your expected claim set from, like, say, a database or from configuration here. Or you could do claim validation. You could skip the policies entirely and just do claim validation on the calls themselves. Identity.web, that library has some ways to verify that a user has a specific claim or that an API call has a specific claim. So if authorization policies don't work well enough, or they can't be tweaked and modified well enough to get you where you need to be, then you could always do this. You could always do it on a per call or per controller basis, probably per call, and just manually check the claim yourself. So yeah, that's probably where I would start. But I would at least try to use policy and make sure that the configuration between your front end and your back end, make sure that those are two separate application registrations. Or if you're using Azure AD, if you're using something different, they really should be represented separately, because your API is in some ways separate from the front end. The front end is just a client. If you go build a mobile client tomorrow, that would be a third, registered application or client, because we will need to be able to control each one of those individually. I hope that helps. Okay.
So we're go with policy then.
Yeah, go with policy if you can, but get these out of configuration. Or there is an authorization manager. I've used it I think I've only used it like once or twice before. There's an authorization manager where you could potentially do some on-the-fly authorization checks using a policy rather than just checking a claim manually yourself. But then at that point, it's like, well, you might as well check the claim manually, because you're checking you're changing the authorization policy. So it's like, well, at that point, just check it. Identity.web, if you're using .NET Core 3.1 and up, Identity.web has a helper. What's it called? I can't remember exactly what it is, but it's like
verify user has any claims.
Yeah, verify user has any claims.
And on top of that, there's authorized the authorized attributes on methods now can take a number of claims or whatever to validate that, so you don't have to manually check it statically. You can also do it at the top of the controller. So if you have a controller that needs to make sure that all calls have the same claims, then you can use that to implement it.
Yep.
Verify user has any accepted scope, and can be applied at the top of the via an attribute for the controller.
Okay, cool. And the other side to that too is here it is. The authorize and verify user will verify the user's authenticated and has the scope.
Yep.
The other thing to remember too is that scopes are more for applications. So,
is that a blog post?
Yeah. Code Mill.
By whom?
Code Mill Tech.
Oh, that's our CDA. That's the one. Nice.
So the other thing to remember too is the scope and so there's also, like in Azure AD, we have a concept of a role, and of course in ASP.NET Identity, there's a concept of a role too.
Yep.
What a user can do is ultimately determined by the role that they are a member of, overlaid with the scope that the client that they're using is allowed to do. So think about it like this. So I'm building a banking API, and the back end of my bank API is what drives our website, and it drives the mobile app. Let's say on the website you can do anything, but on the mobile app you can only maybe the mobile app is read only because it's a small bank and everybody still writes checks or something, right? So the mobile app is read only. So the mobile app scope would be the scopes that the mobile app can request are like read only, for example, because that's the only one that's allowed. That's the only one a user can consent to. Meaning when an API call comes in, it's both a combination of that scope, which is a scope that a user has granted to the application they're using, and any roles that they may be a member of. So the roles are sort of universal. So anywhere in the app, a role is going to drive what they have access to and what they can do.
Right.
But a scope is more about, I have given another application access to my data in this service or this app. And so the scope is about what that application is allowed to do with my data. So there's a sort of a marriage between those two.
And there's also incremental consent, right? Which I don't think it's as easy to implement with without using claims.
What?
Silent.
Sorry, my brain skipped a beat. Say that again.
I said when we're using scopes, we can also have, when we're using claims, we can also have incremental consent. So various things can request for user consent at different times. So you don't have to, I think it's easier to manage, isn't it?
Well, I mean, incremental consent is it's a client property. So it happens before the access token is issued. So if a user hasn't consented to say, yeah, I want to let app ABC access my mailbox, we'll say, just pick something.
Yep.
If you haven't done that, essentially I say, hey, I want read-write access to your mailbox.
Mm-hmm.
I go and try to get an access token, and Azure AD says, hey, wait a minute, this user hasn't consented yet, right? If the user hasn't consented, the user needs to consent, needs to agree and say, yeah, I'm going to allow this app to do this. So the user goes over to Azure AD and says, yeah, I need to do this. I need to get this, whatever. This app wants to read my mailbox. If the user says okay, then the user is sent back to the application along with an access token. And that access token is what gives the application access to it.
Yep.
But it's more about that happens on the client side. Because the client is the thing that needs to request that access token. The server itself, the API will say, it doesn't know how you got an access token. It doesn't know if you consented or not. It just knows that it's received an access token and it needs to make sure it's valid, that it has the right scopes in it. That's really sort of the net of it.
Right.
And by checking that scope claim, you can make sure that both the application has the scope that the user was using, and then any sort of roles or anything the user might have, checking those to make sure they're good to go. So anyway, okay.
Cool. Next one.
All right, so identity.web is out. Go get it.
When is that? When was that blog from Code Millet, by the way? Is that fairly recent?
That was,
because if it is, we should include it into our
August 10th.
Oh. Interesting.
So
I'm surprised you haven't found our blogs and you found Code Millet's blogs.
Well, we haven't. I guess we don't know how to work the Google.
The Google SEO stuff, right?
So
yeah, it's
okay.
fine.
Anyway, so yeah, project templates are available, and the project templates are out, and so is the library. So go use both of them.
Correctamento.
Next.
Right. Next one. What is it? We have a great video from Mr. John Saville. He's doing this kind of an Azure masterclass series on YouTube, all free, all available to you. And this time he covers Azure AD. So Azure AD, roles, administrative units, MFA, conditional access, it's all there. We will include the link on our blog post as well, but this is a great way to get started if you don't want to listen to our voice or ask questions live. And yes, he is a beast. I did reach out to him and say, yeah, we should collaborate at some point, or should we get you on our show? So he is open to that. Eventually, we'll get him on our show as well.
Nice. This is cool.
Yeah.
This is an hour and 45 minutes long, too, so I'm really curious.
Yeah.
I haven't watched it, so I'm really curious how... yeah, that's awesome. All right.
High quality stuff.
Next.
Yes. Next.
Finding graph APIs from the web.
Yeah. It's an interesting blog post I found via Twitter. So this is about, let's see, what was this about? I forgot about it when I read about it. So this one is testing API paths using Postman or Microsoft Graph. And it just goes about discovering how to, work and find APIs that are interesting for Graph. The different two ways to do it. In fact, if you haven't used it, Postman has an amazing, what's it called? Is it a collection, right? It's a Postman collection. So the Graph team has put out a Postman collection that allows you to go and play around. So if you don't want to use the Graph Explorer, which is super easy to use, and you like to double with Postman, then you can also download the collection and start using it. I don't know if they have a link here. Maybe we should find a link to the Postman collection, but it is great.
Yep.
There is another question by our friend S. Mariusorin. If you add a role claim, we use roles as shortcut, so we can add bulk claims. If you want to remove a claim for a specific user, we had to do some hack. Add a claim with value revoked and revoke claim types that have a revoked value. Do you have a better implementation for removing claims on a specific user?
So, if you want to remove a claim, would that be
revoking a claim?
Well, there's a life cycle. So in I'm just going to open Notepad because I don't have like a good whiteboard here, but essentially it's user comes to app, user gets redirected to IDP, user signs in, user gets token or gets code, user goes back to application, application consumes code and does round trip, app gets ID token and possibly an access token. So at this point in ASP.NET Identity, there's a specific thing called there's a specific event in the OpenID Connect events called on security token validated. This specific event is after token has been validated.
Yep.
But, and this is important, before the ASP.NET cookie is issued. Which means anything you do here, add, remove, tweak claims, anything you do here, when this method exits, will be written into the cookie.
Yep.
Which means that on subsequent requests, that doesn't happen, right? So subsequent requests, we're looking at the cookie. Azure AD or whatever IDP you're using is totally out of the thing, right? At this point.
Yep.
Because now you're just making HTTP requests and you've got a cookie. ASP.NET knows what that is. So here, if you do any changes, this is where they need to happen, which is unfortunately fairly early in the life cycle. This is right after a user is signed in. And the token has been validated and that the signature has been checked. It's been checked against the OpenID metadata for all the stuff to make sure the signature is valid and pulled the keys. Like ASP.NET does all that for you. Here is where you like add an identity and then you add a claim. You add an array of claims to that. So one option is to copy all of your claims that you have, remove the ones you don't want, then create a new identity and use that, use only, let's see, create a new identity with those claims. User claims principal factory on generate claims async and filter data. Yeah, so that is using, when you say that, that sort of implies that you're using user manager, right? So you're using the user manager pieces of ASP.NET Identity at that point, with user claims principal factory and generate claims async. Yeah, okay. So it gets a little bit trickier with that because there's a whole lot of extra sort of overhead that's happening. If you're only signing in users with an IDP, historically what I've done is I've signed the user in with an IDP, I've created them a record in ASP.NET Identity's membership database, and then stored the rest of my user data in my own database, like in my application database, because I didn't want to store any hard user data if I didn't have to, so I just create a dummy record with a unique ID and go pull role data elsewhere. In ASP.NET Identity with membership, there is a specific event, which I can't think of the name of it. I don't know exactly when it happens, but there's a specific event early on when you do like a, I want to say it's called like a social sign-in or sign-in social, something like that. When you call that, that takes all the claims that you've got and pushes them over. into the ASP.NET Identity sort of cookie that gets written. So I believe that would be the best time to pull them out. But to be honest, I haven't used a membership database in so long that I don't actually know what that code looks like right now for user manager.
Yeah, it's been a long time, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has been a very long time. I've sort of completely left behind all of the user manager and application manager stuff. So
yeah,
I don't really like the revoke hack either. But if it's happened after the point where the cookie has been written, I can't think of a good way.
Ooh, your voice is going down now. What happened?
What?
The volume of your sound, almost like the problem we had the last time. Remember, something went wrong with your input sound.
Well, remember,
speak again.
You hear me from my.
Yes.
You hear me from my headset, and everyone else hears me through that microphone. So
it's better now.
Okay. Maybe it was because I was messing with it in my ear.
Yeah. See.
Okay. Maybe
I'm not the only one.
Maybe it is a me problem then. I don't know. I guess I should get really, really close to it. Whisper.
It's better.
I'll try. Let me see. I hope nothing messed up again. Anyway. So yeah,
it's good.
I think if you're using user manager, I know there are specific methods when you're using like the social external IDP stuff, where essentially the claims from the external IDP are copied into the and I want to say it's called like social sign-on or external sign-on is the name of the method. I don't remember which one it was, but that would be the point. That would be the point at which I'd manipulate those claims, and then that way you know that you should be able to remove them entirely instead of just flagging them to be ignored. So.
Yeah. Hey, by the way, talking about the Graph Explorer and using Postman, Bolt.io had a valid comment. The problem with the Graph Explorer is that having multiple tenants, so most of the time he wants to impersonate, or I assume, to impersonate an app registration.
Yep.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, there are pros and cons with either tool. So
yeah, Postman is much easier for getting a client credential. For using client credentials. So
yeah,
I thought we had a collection, but yeah, I cannot find the Graph Postman collection anywhere.
Oh really? Let me see if I can. In my Google Foo can get there.
Oh well, it got me there. It's the very first one, so I'm just.
It's one of these mornings, isn't it?
Yeah. Here we go. Oh, you know what I was looking for? There's an Azure AD V2 Postman collection that I know exists that I literally cannot find.
Yes. Yeah. Should we do the last of the news and then see if there are any more community questions, and then we can go back and start hiking some code. Actually, we're going to put together the Azure Function solutions that we came up with. Last one is the enhancements that we got into the user management in the portal. So not as much as a developer-friendly feature, but for those of us that have to do both, like developers working in small companies or developers that have to also manage their AD tenant, then this one is fantastic because we added some really good features, improved visibility and better search and better filtering. So if you haven't had the time to look into that, go and check the preview and see what you like and what you don't like, and let us know.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, better search. You can do an export now, I think. Like you can do like a bulk export. I thought I saw that in there. So yeah, there's some cool stuff. Oh yeah, user accounts. Yeah, that's super useful.
Yes.
And then we have, let's see, one more. The REST client in VS Code. Oh yeah, that's cool. It's in VS Code too, right? So you don't have to use Postman.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool.
It is. So many.
Clearly we need to do a cover and do your IDP is the one I need, baby. Clearly. I got a buddy with a super deep voice.
And you have to put it on TikTok. See, I'm telling you, there's ample demand. People are demanding for JP show us his artistic. And you've done some music science, didn't you, at the university? So you have all the things that you need, all the tools in your arsenal to do it.
5.5 million downloads. Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty serious. I think, in fact, I may have used this in the past. I don't really remember. But no, that's super cool. In fact, I am kind of curious. I am going to install it because now I'm... oh, look, I've already got it in. So, all right.
So many tools, so little time.
Yep. You know, that's true. So I got these two buddies I used to work with. The place I used to work with. One of them came with me. The other one we're still trying to convince to come over to Microsoft, but he hadn't come over yet. But anyways, like I'm like a... I don't want to say normal-sized person. I'm a normal-sized American. How about that, right? Because I'm like 6'1", and kind of broad and whatever, just kind of like just lumbery, right? Just big, right? So these two guys, the three of us worked together, and we went and just sort of plowed through the country doing a bunch of Azure work for customers. And the thing is, they are both like 7 feet tall. I don't know how tall they actually are. I just know that whenever I would walk in somewhere, if they were with me, I had these two enormous people next to me.
Right.
And I always felt so safe. I felt like, if something went down, or if there's a lightning storm nearby, I'm last one picked. So, I mean, as much as I like them, I did,
Can you run faster than everybody else?
Oh no, I definitely can't do that. That is the only problem. In case of something like a bear, I'd be in bad shape. So, yeah. Don't want to do that. But, yeah, so.
The original Azure Towers.
Yeah. Actually, I actually think I do have a photo, which I'll pull it up while we're transitioning into our next thing. But, yeah, so I bought a car, like a little Volkswagen, like a GTI. And I was like, hey, fellas, we should all go to lunch.
You managed to fit in all right?
I mean, they fit in the sense that the doors would close with them in there. But that was sort of the extent of it. There really wasn't much happening past that, so But it was fun, whatever.
He actually had to scooch down in the front seat.
Yeah, because they're both super tall, and Donnie and I went to go see a customer at one point, and the rental car we got was a Hyundai Santa Fe. And so the two of us get, these two dudes get out of this, I'm fairly wide, and Donnie was fairly tall, and we get out, and we hit the horn button, like the lock button on the remote, and it made the most pathetic, sort of weak little beep. It was almost cute. It was just like, it's sort of and that was it. That was all it was. And then here we come, these two enormous. It was pretty funny. Anyway, throwing it back. All right. So, I don't think we have any questions at the moment. So let's, I promised everybody you and I would fight about PowerShell versus C# functions.
Yes.
So,
it's not going to be a fight. It's going to be a friendly joust.
Okay. So at what point...
Apparently jousting is coming back, by the way. I've read it yesterday, and it is insane. Modern day jousting.
Nice.
Yes, that's what we need, man. I mean... Why not, right?
Yep.
Especially with healthcare being all free and all. Oh, sorry, I forgot about that. It's not. We're in the US. So.
Wow, that got serious really quickly.
That escalated within 2 sentences. Anyway.
A modern day joust would be kind of fun.
Lasers rather than actual sticks.
Can you write an Azure function in PHP?
No, you can serve PHP, I suppose.
Well, how could you serve PHP if you can't write it in PHP? Because something would happen.
Static websites. No, I don't. .NET jousts. Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna do. You know what we're gonna do? We're gonna do a poll. Now, you know what? Before we do the poll, before we do. Oops! What the hell happened? I don't want this. I don't want this to pop out. Okay, so
compiler.
All right, before we do the poll. Let's see. How should we build our scanner function? PowerShell or C# plus graph, resource graph?
Oh, our friend Jan has put a running PHP in Azure Functions for a customer. Damn.
You know,
It's a blog post for everything.
if there's anybody who would have figured out how to bend app service and functions to their will, it's our friend Jan.
Jan is pretty fantastic. I mean, we had him on the show a couple of weeks ago. He did a brilliant app service or easy auth kind of introduction, and he went really deep into the 400 level.
Nice.
So if you missed that one, make sure you come back and watch it on YouTube on our channel. But he's apparently everywhere these days.
I mean, he really is
popping up all the time.
Yeah, I mean, I know you could run PHP in app service. That's why I was kind of curious as whether or not you could do it in functions. And I mean, it would seem as though, yeah, you could have got a, let's see, PHP web server, use the built-in one, and so I mean, it's kind of like calling Node, really.
Yeah,
which is kind of cool. So so there you go. But we are not going to write this in PHP.
Oh no. PHP is out of the question.
Wait, does the P in PHP stand for PowerShell? Okay.
PowerShell, help me, please.
Okay, so last week, or earlier this week,
Yes.
so Alex on Facebook gave us, he said, hey, go use Resource Graph. It'll be
He is
super
with
fast.
us this morning.
He is with us this morning. Good morning. He told us to go use Resource Graph, okay?
Yes.
So, excuse me. So, Resource Graph goes and runs a query and gives us back. And so with this one, we're looking where there's the expires tag is null. And we probably need to do some extra guarding in here to check for case or whatever. Although the expires tags that we're putting in are only tags. The only expires tags will be the tags that we put in through Thrazman, which of course is happening. Which happens to be all lowercase, but there's obviously a lot of room for optimization here.
Correct, Amendo.
So, if we want to make this call, we have to go do a couple things first. So, in order to make this call, let me open up Postman because I had it up here from earlier. Should be able to zoom this in. So, in Postman, oops. If we want to make this call, this is against management.azure.com against the resource graph provider, right?
Yep.
Oh, nice. Identity on the edge. That's going to be, that's super cool. See you, Bolt. Hopefully we'll see you next Monday or Tuesday, depending on which day we end up doing this. So.
Identity on the edge. Nice. Hey, you should come and talk to us about Identity on the edge, man.
Yeah. It'd be awesome. Yeah. So, in order to make the call to the resource graph with that query, it's pretty straightforward. We call management.azure.com and then the resource graph provider and then resources and with a subscriptions object and a query, right?
Yep.
So fairly straightforward. Nothing too bananas, and we can send in subscription. Now this says subscriptions plural, which leads me to believe that we can send in multiple subscriptions, and if we can send in multiple subscriptions,
that solves a big problem.
Now it starts to get a lot more interesting because now if we're using a management group, for example, which is a sort of a higher level umbrella over multiple subscriptions, we'd be able to just put in a whole list of them here.
Yeah, that's a good point because that's the thing I asked you yesterday, right?
Yep.
So if you are creating a solution, whether it's PowerShell or this, you'll be running under managed identity account in App Service. Obviously, that's the safest way to do it.
Yep.
So I was like, I can only get my subscription information. Why? How can I get the other ones? And the answer for that is management groups, which is something you have to set up. So your managed identity is part of that management group. Is that correct?
Yeah. So if we go look at our, if we go back to the Azure portal, let's see. I'm not sure if there it is, management groups. So if we go look at management groups in the Azure portal. So you notice, like, I have one that's called owned. So these are my subscriptions, essentially. It's just a group of subscriptions, but these are the ones that I personally use. In fact, I wish I could rename it. I can because my alias has changed. So I'm going to go ahead and change that. But a management group is just that. It's just an organizational sort of hierarchy to say this has a collection of Azure subscriptions underneath it. And what's really neat about it is that then you get all sorts of things you can do cross subscription, like see what budgeting looks like, see what bills look like, apply policy across all of them, and in our case, apply RBAC to them.
Yes.
So what we could do is add our managed service identity to the management group as an owner, as a contributor, whatever we'd like to do. And then that would give the managed identity access to all of the subscriptions in the resource group, or excuse me, all the subscriptions in the management group, as opposed to only a single subscription, which is what we have now.
There you go.
Because right now, my subscription is only set, or my managed service identity is only set to be an owner or a contributor here.
Right.
Yeah. So if we look at role assignments here, we get, here's our MSI, and it's a contributor on my function, right?
Yeah, Alex, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
It's just an organizational grouping with a ton of governance capabilities. Super useful for ARM and blueprints. Yeah.
Yeah.
Management groups are super awesome.
Yeah. So anyway, we need to look at the doc for this API call as to whether or not subscriptions can take an array, or if it takes a comma separated list or whatever. But ultimately, if we can do this in a single query across multiple subscriptions, then that's going to be super helpful.
It's definitely going to trump the effort they have to put into writing via PowerShell. Although I would still like to see, or I would still like to show everyone the PowerShell. I mean, I was writing the blog post, so it will probably be out today, and that is how you can use managed identity with PowerShell to pull information from your Azure resources.
Yeah.
And in this instance, we are doing just a simple get me all the resources that don't have a specific tag. But I was able to put together in 7 lines of code, which is great. It's on your teams.
Okay. Let me get this up here. So.
Yep. Oh, the other nice thing that the resource, the Azure graph has, is that you can run it locally and test it. Whereas PowerShell, because it's using managed identity, cannot. You have to have a separate kind of authentication for PowerShell. So as you can see up here, when we connect to the AZ account, we use the identity, which is line 4. So in line 4, we're authenticating PowerShell, and then we are able to access everything. This cannot run locally because of the fact that identity is not available. Alex says REST API version 24.1 adds a property to scope the query to a management group.
Nice. So 2020-0401. So let's see. That's the Azure management. Azure REST API resource graph. There it is. So subscriptions is a string array, which is cool, so we could do that. Or if we use the 2020-0401 preview, where are there any docs for that? Here it is. So we've got a resource. Let's see, overview. Oops, resources. So yeah, management group ID, and then subscriptions. Since these are optional, I guess we would just send in management group ID instead of a subscription array, which is even easier.
Sweet.
Yeah. Nice. Although I'm not using a management group yet. Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, right now we're still at the we're still using the managed identity, right?
Well, we're still using subscriptions instead of. We're still using a specific subscription instead of a management group. But yeah.
Gotcha. Yep.
So as long as we can show up with either a subscription or a management group, that's cool. In fact, it'd probably be easy to make this a setting, so we just override it as we need to. Thanks, Alex.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thanks, Alex.
So, cool. All right. So anyway, so this is how we do it in PowerShell, right? So this is not using resource graph. I mean, we could always write PowerShell to do resource graph by making an HTTP call. This is using Azure PowerShell, and because it's using Azure PowerShell, we can just include the identity flag in here, and that identity flag is essentially a way to say use managed identity. So in an Azure environment, be it in functions and on a VM, what's the other one? Automation. That managed identity would, the fact that it would be there is sort of all you need for that to work. We don't have to give it an ID or anything. if you're using a system identity. If you're using a user-managed identity, you'll have to give it an ID because you may have multiple on the same resource. So
yes, exactly.
Good afternoon, Brett Miller Brett Miller IT. Sorry, I didn't mean
Brett Miller.
Brett Miller. Good morning or good afternoon, Brett Miller IT. And then this is just, yeah, so we're kind of going through all the resource groups, we're getting the tags, and then going through the tags themselves to find those that are missing the expires tag, right?
And yeah, you can do if not equal something, which is nice.
Yep. And then we have a list of them, and then we push them out, right? So
Correctamento.
Yeah. So the forgive me, I don't mean this in a bad way. The coolest part is that there's literally no identity code in here.
Oh yeah.
The fact that
pun intended.
The fact that Connect AZ account -identity sort of handles all of it for you is super, super, super cool.
That is insane, right? And the fact that the Azure PowerShell is built into functions, you don't have to import any modules or whatever. It's also super handy because you can do everything. That TS looks good. Yes.
It does.
Yes, even the naming. I didn't even change the name. So there is some credit to go to the person that helped us on Tuesday. I reappropriated it for us, Corey Cole. Yeah.
So the thing that we saw last week was that, and PowerShell seemed to be particularly slow. I don't know why.
Especially the first one.
Yeah.
Like they had to almost download the PowerShell core stuff and then zip it in the machine. Subsequent calls were okay, but they were not as fast. So I suspect that
it was surprising. It seemed like the first one took a really long time.
Yep.
And then the second one, after we made a code change, so I had to re-JIT. But then the third one, so after we hadn't made any changes, it should have been JITted, and all the dependencies were there.
Oh, see?
Yeah. Oh, that's crazy. So really then what we'd have to do is change the requirements PSD1 to only include the things that we need, which would be like az.resources, I think, or az.resource. Because all we're looking at are the resource groups.
Do you also need the identity part?
Oh yeah,
you
would need the identity one, which I think is az.identity.
Okay.
But I mean, whenever you go and install, I mean, if we were to go install AZ right
AZ
now,
accounts.
Yeah.
Yeah. You need to update the logic on that. Oh, why?
AZ accounts. There we go. Yeah. Let's see. Regards to resource graph and not writing identity code, one idea might call the resource graph query via CLI or PowerShell from an Azure function, which then might. Yeah, so this...
You mean Jeffrey Snover, not Jeremy, unless it's a different Snover and I don't know him.
That's his brother who wrote the requirements PSD1. So let's see. Resource graph and not writing identity code. One idea might be to call the resource graph query via CLI or PowerShell from an Azure function. Yeah, so that would be an option too. Would be instead of doing, if we wanted it to be like a proper face-off, right? So this is sort of a PowerShell method to do this. If we wanted to do, if we wanted to use resource graph in here, I don't know if there are any resource graph commandlets that are made for PowerShell. So then we'd end up doing essentially an HTTP call, which wouldn't be that hard to do. We would just, the code that we wrote last week to go and get the access token from the MSI endpoint, we'd have to put that back in here. So get access token from MSI endpoint, and then we would do like an invoke web request to management.azure.com resources to the resource graph query endpoint.
But that would bypass totally having to use the Azure PowerShell there.
Yeah.
There's an AZ resource graph module,
okay.
But it's still in preview and only has search AZ graph. Okay.
I wonder if we could... Well, we're doing a query, right? Let's go look at this doc. Run your first resource graph query using Azure PowerShell. Okay, no, that would work. So we could use AZ resource graph. And then, yeah, we just issue it our query and see how fast it is. So, because we've already got a query, so this might actually work. Let me go.
Yeah.
Let's go pull up our other. Let's go pull up our PowerShell function from last week or from this week, and let's go try it with that and see if it's any faster. And we'll also maybe modify our. And we're doing this one in the portal because this was intended to just be sort of a throwaway test, right?
2 seconds to return 2,500 VMs.
Nice.
For me earlier today.
Nice.
Damn.
All right. So let's see then. Now, I wonder, let's see, requirements. So do I need to, I guess we need to add a requirements.psd1 in here, don't we?
Yeah, there isn't one.
Yeah, because there isn't one. Okay.
It's annoying because in the old UI, you could actually add a file through the UI. Now you can't. You have to drop it via Kudu.
Okay. So
someone give the ADX team a beer.
So connect AZ account identity. And then we've got... Yeah, so we'll have to add this into our requirements PSD1, and then
remove everything else, right? Is it excluding if you scaffold it locally with func tools, the requirement PSD is added?
Interesting. Let's just go find one. And we'll add it. You said so we have to add it through Kudu. We can't just bring a file in over here.
Nope, not anymore.
That's lame. Okay.
Unless you have a way to do it, but I couldn't figure a way to do it here. So you have to go into the Kudu space.
That definitely seems kind of strange.
Yeah, I mean, in the olden days, the old UI was brilliant. You could do anything you wanted.
Huh. It's kind of strange. Yeah, I don't know why you can't do that. I haven't done a portal one in a very long time, so I was hoping it would just be really quick and easy.
It's very rare that you start with a portal, especially as a developer. You develop locally.
Let's go find a requirements PSD1 file, and then we'll go over to the We'll go over to the Kudu portal and be done. PowerShell developer reference for Azure functions. Requirements.psd1. Okay.
Needs to be at the root. I don't think they have an example. We may have to scaffold it locally.
Here we go.
Oh, you found one? Perfect.
Functions let you leverage PowerShell gallery, blah, blah, blah. With dependency management enabled, the requirements is used to automatically download modules. Okay, you enable this behavior setting manage dependency property to true in the root of the host JSON file. Okay, a new new PowerShell project. Dependency management is enabled. AZ module included. The maximum number of modules currently supported is 10. Okay.
Can we remove the full AZ module and then be explicit about what we import? Like,
I would think
does
so.
this override everything else? So if you have this file, that means that you are actually defining the module that you want to import. Whereas if it's not, it does the default stuff. Is that the correct assumption?
Well, I think so. This is including everything. My assumption would be that if we were to include AZ dot. AZ dot resource graph, AZ dot accounts, AZ dot resources, that perhaps it only pulls those 3 down.
Okay,
that's worth a test. So this is test.
So Brett Miller is saying, remove the AZ module as that's just a meta module with all the other ones. Yes. So if we we don't remove, we just add the ones that we need. My assumption is that it will work. It will be much faster.
Yeah, so we remove the AZ star, the meta package, right? And then we add the other ones. So let's look at the file system. There's our requirements PSD1.
There it is.
So here we need Azure resources. We need AZ resource graph, and we need to go look at the version of that. I'm assuming it's 1 star, but if it's still preview, it may be before that. We need AZ.accounts. Is it accounts or account? I have to go
No, I
look.
think it was AZ accounts. Yeah, accounts. I want to find the version for it.
So
Ooh,
yeah.
Brave. This goes.
Let's go look. Do we need commas? I wonder. I mean, it's it's an array, so yeah, I would assume so.
Yeah.
Or an object. I don't know. The other question too is, does it do?
Resources 251, accounts 194,
Oh, man.
resource graph 0.7. Damn, you're on fire, Brett.
Resources is 251. Accounts is 194, and resource graph is 0.77. Okay.
Working for those stickers I got today. Oh, did you get them?
Nice.
Did you get the stickers?
Nice. That's awesome. And then,
I mean,
managed dependency.
it was insane to pay the postage for these because it's the US. So sending anything out was crazy. And I was super worried in case they had to charge you to pick them up because sometimes we send stuff to Greece and the customs is insane. So I'm super happy that you got them. Landed about an hour ago. Just sent a tweet. Oh, I didn't see the tweet. Yes. I hope they're stuck all over your laptop or your house or whatever. My kids went crazy with our stickers, so I can see 4 to 5 so all over the place now. Under the table, on the chairs.
The thing is, I don't even have any yet. You haven't even sent me any.
Well, yeah, you haven't worked hard enough to get any.
I see where I land now.
Send me your email. Send me your address, and I will see what I can do.
All right, I'll send it.
Hey, the trip to the post office is a perilous one. You need to be super brave. What happened?
The assignment expression is not valid. The input to an assignment operator must be an object that is able to accept assignments. Thank you for telling me that. Let's see.
Oh, it's about the search query, the search graph, whatever?
No, I didn't put the I didn't edit this correctly. So do they use... So it's an... Is it... Let's see. Is it 077 preview, maybe? AZ resource graph.
Oh, that's a lot of stickers there. I just saw the tweet, Brett. Damn, man. These were packed with a lot of care and love from my wife and kids. I did give instructions to send them stuff. Check that out. Nice.
I wonder if we can install pre-release ones in here.
I don't see why not. You can install pre-release stuff for NuGet.
Oh, I put commas in there. We don't need commas.
Oh.
See, it's just a non-PowerShell regular user issue. That's all it is. Yeah, it's a John problem.
Not reading the docs. Cavalier at that.
I read the docs, thank you very much. I just didn't read them precisely enough to make sure that I got them in the right place.
Yeah, and also as your driver, like sitting next to you, I did not pay attention to that. So what are you planning to do with a query result?
So once we get the query result, we're going to find everything that is not tagged with our specific tag, and then we're going to go tag them. We're going to put our expiration tag on them. The expiration tag being the point at which they will be deleted in the future, and then we'll have another thing that handles the deletion of the resource groups based on the expiration tag. Okay.
Correct. We're almost there, by the way.
So we got a 500.
With very minimal code. It's funny how you can set all this elaborate logic with a few lines of code.
Still pretty slow. Although maybe it's still loading up the requirement stuff. Well, my hope is that with only 3 of them, it doesn't take nearly as long. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But I agree. It's slightly slower.
Well, maybe it's still jitting.
For the first time?
Failed to install has parsing errors. The assignment expression is not valid.
I think it has to do with the
what's wrong with
search AZ graph.
No, it's something to do with this file. So the one that's in the docs is, oh come on, where did it go? Is essentially, well, I'm just going to take this one, right? So there's that. If we go look at ours, so I'll get rid of these comments just so we can look. So we've got...
you have quotes around the AZ resources. You shouldn't. You have quotes around the names.
Yep, which I don't need. And then we do have quotes around the versions. Okay.
Correct.
Try this one more time. Okay.
So as a co-pilot, I did something today. On Tuesday, I'm getting on the driver's seat. I'll break all the code.
All right, let's close this. Let's clear our logs. I'll just give this a refresh. So now requirements.psd1. Now that we changed that, that should force all these to re-download. Well, it looks like according to the docs, we're supposed to have them here around the versions. We're not supposed to have them around the module names. So if I look at this one, this shows the module name is not quoted or ticked equals a ticked version number. So I think they look pretty good. Okay. So back over here. Let's try to run this again. The script file requirements.psd1 has parsing errors. The assignment expression is not valid. What is wrong with it?
Spaces, maybe? Do you have spaces where you shouldn't have spaces?
Yeah, that's a good idea. Let's restart it.
That's a good point.
Here we go.
And then you have to restart Azure if this doesn't work. Restart Azure if this doesn't work.
Yeah, the whole thing.
The whole thing.
Control A, Shift Delete, start over from the beginning.
You're only going to take which data center are you using?
East US.
Central East US. Just take that down for a couple of seconds. I'm sure everyone will be okay.
Yeah, what's the worst that could happen, right?
What's the worst that can happen? While we're waiting for this to start, I got a message from John Carlos, our friend in Scotland. He was like, "Hey, I've been playing around with a new setup in the Azure AD Azure portal. It's getting much better segmentation. It's much cleaner, and getting started in preview hubs are super helpful. Good work." And I did say to him, "Thanks. Although I can't take the credit for it, our team is working really hard in making these changes." And he was super excited to see the changes that are coming into the Azure portal.
It says we're missing an equals after a hash literal.
What?
Missing equal operator after a key in a hash literal. So the keys would be these. I wonder, does the period cause some sort of problem? Let's look at, let me go look at the...
Is it case sensitive maybe?
Shouldn't be. No, see, these don't have periods in them.
Yeah, but you wouldn't expect us to load the whole AZ just to use a submodule, right? Are there any other examples? Maybe on GitHub?
Yeah, I'm going to go look for another example.
Random white space. Yeah, I thought about that. Doesn't like the white spaces maybe between the equals and the...
I mean, that's what the doc had in it. Let's go find a sample one. Let's go find somebody's written one. Let's go to GitHub and look.
Somebody in this world has done it.
Because, I mean, it looks just like the docs do.
Yeah.
PSD1. Right.
When following the docs does not always work.
Not to mention, we also have a pull request we need to go look at from none other than the Corey Cow.
There's a pull request?
Yeah, we got to go look at one. Okay. Let's see. Let's go find a requirements PSD1 file. I want that to be the name of the file.
Mm-hmm.
Let's do an advanced search.
Oh, he pinged us one on. There you go. Oh, there are quotes around the names. That's interesting.
Are they quotes, or are they ticks?
Ticks. No, sorry, single quote. That's important, right? Not ticks, because ticks are the. Is that the tick that you do markdown code? Is that what you mean? I think single quotes and double quotes. That's what I use.
Okay, single quote or double quote. Yeah, that's fine. So. So here's a requirements PSD1, but it doesn't,
no dots though.
But doesn't have any. It doesn't have any dots in the module names.
Does that mean that you have to only pull high level?
But see,
top level.
But now this one's like, it looks like a repo of some kind, or maybe like a gallery thing.
Hey, the one that Brett put on the chat actually points to a file.
Okay, cool.
That does have dots. That's a different module entirely. Oh, okay.
So this is
open that one. See?
Okay, yeah. So it's got quotes. There's no assignment happening anywhere, so we just got rid of the comments. We're creating a hash table. Yeah. It's quotes. So let's go look at ours. Pull this one over to the side. We'll open ours up. Yeah, I mean, Key Vault's a totally separate one, but these are all in ticks. So
correct. I wonder if you had some kind of a weird character copied.
We're gonna go look.
Docs here.
We are gonna go look.
I've been bitten by that before. Some random white space that you couldn't see, or some random character that was not.
Doesn't look like
carriage return, right? Okay.
I mean, I can retype them, but
no, I think that looks good.
2.star 0.7.7. 1.star tick tick tick. All those ticks look okay.
Yeah.
We only have line. We just have line breaks,
which should be fine.
Save. And there's not a separate one in here, just function and run. So there's no separate requirements PSD1 in here, because this is where it's supposed to go anyway.
Yep.
Okay, let's clear this. Has a missing an equals operator after a key in a hash literal. Let's try this.
I'm dumbfounded now. What is it looking for?
This is the function apps requirements. We don't have a separate one for the individual one.
Correct. Top level.
So I need resources 2.star.
Oh, you're retyping it.
Yeah, I'm just going to retype it. AZ resource graph. 0.7.
Oh, manage dependency turned on in the host.json 2.
Yep.
Do you check that?
It is turned on, yeah.
I didn't see that, sorry.
All right, and then we close it. So that looks good, normal.
Yep. Yep.
Host.json managed dependency enabled true.
Yep.
Okay, so it's definitely restarted because now the log streaming session got booted. So it's good.
Mm-hmm.
So it's clear. Now we're reconnected. I'm just going to go run this over here because I'm tired of looking at that. I'm tired of this window being so big. Whatever. Okay. And then we'll get back. We gotta get back to yeah, we're still getting 500, although we're not even getting logs now. Let's see.
Insane.
Stop, clear, start, connected. Okay, good. Run. Promise.psd1 has a parsing error, missing an equals operator after a key in a hash literal.
I think there's a bug somewhere there, JP.
Should I use like proper big quotes? Like double quotes, whatever they're called?
We could.
Or maybe you're right. Maybe doing it here in the like Monaco Lite or whatever this editor is, maybe I need to just upload the file. Like maybe there is something extra in here. I don't know. Save. Refresh. And while we're waiting on this to reload again, let's go check out this question. So, feel free to interrupt us. That's why we're here.
Yep.
By the way, don't feel like you
Yes.
don't feel like you can interrupt us because that's literally the whole point of why we're here is to help.
Yeah, we're filling the void with writing code on Thursdays, just so we're not sitting around. But any question is a valid question.
Yep. Okay, so we need to check the company developer's rights. We found we can export a CSV JSON with scopes, users, and roles. We did not find a created date. It's important for auditing the whole subscription. Do we have a better approach? API is good. Also, the path in Azure is subscription. IAM download role assignments. The role assignments are definitely available via API. And they should have an assigned date, but it may not be exposed via the portal. Let's take a quick trip over to Graph Explorer just to make sure. There are resource assignments in here, however, so no, I don't want the Bing desktop wallpaper. Role assignments, roles. It may also only be in the beta endpoint right now. App role assignments, users. Yeah, so that was when the assignment was created. That should be in the creation timestamp property. And this is app role assignment resource type, blah, blah, blah. Where, this is not a very useful, where's the call? Where is, so this is for a specific user. So if I went to me app role assignment, here we see my app role assignment. So we see the ID, we see the value, we see when it was created. So this was 2017-04. This is for an app called Power BI Pusher with a specific resource ID. So that is also available in V1, I believe. Yeah, it is. So it's in V1. I'll just put this in here. So that's one place to go and look. Now, if you can pivot it around to see, for example, all app role assignments, because these are hanging off of users, I believe. App role, I believe we can look at this in an inverted manner, but I'm not entirely certain. App roles. No. So yeah, so you can definitely get it from a specific user. But yeah, you can get all the users and make a call for each. So it's not super efficient. But yeah, that's where I would start. App role with app role assignments. Okay. Okay, what happened? What were the other suggestions since then? We were going to change this to use this and wait for it. Change it to use proper quotes. All right. Same thing. Now it says failed to install functionality. Oh yeah, same problem. Missing equals operator after a key and a hash literal. I don't get it, man.
That is insane. I think it is a bug.
So it's kind of a bummer.
Let's park it for now. I can reach out to the Azure Functions team to see what the hell is happening there. And
now I am kind of curious to see how it works. So let's just try it from me, right? Search AZ graph, or I guess I've got to do install module AZ resource graph. Of course, I'm not in an elevated command window, so I don't know if it's going to let me do it or not. Although I wonder if this is, yeah, that's kind of what I'm wondering, is if it's a kudu thing. Excuse me. There's something with that file editor or whatever. Let me just do this too. Take this, notepad, didn't copy, that's okay. Requirements.psd1. I'll just put it here, and then I'm just going to upload it directly. So at least now I have edited it in 1139. That's right now. Okay. Yeah, same thing. I don't know. It's super weird. We'll have to dig into it and see. So that was the PowerShell way, which still doesn't work.
Yeah,
we'll figure it out.
I think you're jinxed, man.
We'll figure it out. Anyway, so I went ahead and wrote some code because I got a little bored earlier. Let me make this a little bit easier to read. So if we wanted to do it in our C# function that we already have, there are a couple things that we need. So first, if we want to use managed service identity, we've got this thing called the app authentication. This app authentication library, which makes getting a token from MSI super easy. So by using the app authentication library, we get this Azure Service Token Provider that hangs off of it, right?
You named it A? God.
I was writing alone. I'm sorry. Here, Azure MSI Token Provider. There we go.
Thank you.
So it's pretty easy though. There's a get access token async. You give it the name of the resource, and since the resource that we need for all of our calls is management.azure.com, meaning that may not necessarily be the URL that we're going to call, but it is going to be the name of the resource. So this is sort of like the app ID. In fact, if you've got your own applications, you could put a client ID here. Nice. To access another one of your APIs, which we'll have to get into that one day because we've got some apps to do that. Yep. So we've got get access token async, and then false here. This is an override for forcing refresh. So we don't need to force a refresh because we're not making changes to our rights. But if for some reason we were changing permission levels on other things, then this would be super helpful because we could force this to always go and get a new access token. Otherwise, the MSI stuff's going to handle caching that for us. So then we need a new HTTP client. Obviously, we don't want to have a new HTTP client for every single one of these calls, so we need to go and inject that one. I was writing the query locally. What does that mean? What does that mean? Oh, you're right. You're right. See, I can't even keep myself together, Brett. Thank you.
Oh, we totally forgot about that. We moved on to the next one.
Yeah, we did. Search AZ graph with our query, and our query is this. Query pal Gotta get rid of some of these escapes. I think I can just use a single tick here because PowerShell is way more forgiving. All right, let's run it. Let's see what we got. Oh, for Christ's sake. First, select AZ subscription. All right, connect AZ account. Yeah, blah, blah, blah. Device login. Oh, come on. You know who I am. Let me type it in 50 times. Oh, now I got to do this too. JFC, man. All right. Approve. What is that? Oh, it doesn't work on that phone. I got to get my other phone. Hang on. We noticed you spend a lot of time on your phone during the day. Like, well...
That's because you're doing MFA all the time.
Because I have to MFA for Azure PowerShell all the time. Approve. Okay. You know, I think I remember the other day I had to do this in Windows. I had to do this in Windows PowerShell. I couldn't use it in regular PowerShell because, for whatever reason, Windows... What's so funny about Connect AZ account? Is there a newer way to do it? I'm lost.
Maybe the fact that you didn't do it to begin with and you couldn't authenticate, or you were not authenticated.
Well, I used to have a context where I would just load the same context, but I need to refresh it, and I haven't in a while. Okay, let's go to Windows PowerShell. See, I've got this context set up, but it must have expired. And then I need in here... This will open a window because it's Windows. Windows knows how to open windows, and PowerShell Core does not. Because, of course, it has to work in lots of different places. So, opening windows in other systems is not nearly as... well, at least it's not the same as in Windows. So, is that 91? Okay. Look at my face and let me in. Okay. And I gotta install this thing, so... Oh, no, I'm sure that it does. I think for me, it's probably because of all the policies that they push to our machines, Brett. It's probably... Install oops. PowerShell. Install module. AZ. Resource graph. Okay. That's a good call. Clear AZ context. Yes. Plow everything out of here. Let's try to connect one more time in this one while we're waiting for the other one to install stuff. Why is your phone battery dead at noon every day? It's because it's buzzing itself off of my desk with MFA requests. Okay. One more time. Device authentication. Why is it keep... Whatever. Okay. I think I'm signed in over here at least. Although my context probably has to change because I installed the resource... I had to install the resource graph over here. So, what is it? Import module AZ resource graph. Okay. Search AZ. Where's my thing? Search AZ graph. I'll just do that. Whatever. Okay. Nice. Now that's using my context, so that's finding a bunch of other stuff that is not mine.
Exactly, yeah.
But that's okay. So here we have a bunch of resources. Or a bunch of
that
resource
don't
groups
have
not
the
tagged.
yeah.
And it didn't
Perfect.
take that long when you think about it.
Nope.
It was pretty quick, actually. So cool. So we know it works. It's just a matter of making PowerShell and an Azure function work. So anyway, cool. So the alternative is we do this in C#.
Yes.
In our C# function, our .NET function. Yeah, we haven't taken a break, but I guess we're almost done for the day.
We're almost done for the day. You're absolutely
I
right.
know, my teeth are floating. So we get some of these windows out of the way. So anyway, in our C# function, we're doing a couple things. So the first one is we got to get our subscription list that our MSI has access to. Now, if we switch to the management group, switch to using management groups, we can sort of obviate the need for this first call to go get the list of subscriptions, right? However, I'm not entirely sure I want to put it on a resource group yet. Oh, and yeah, Marl Soren. Sorry, I know we're butchering it. Yes, you can do role assignments with an expiration using PIM. So it's called. It's a new preview functionality. It's called privileged. What is it? Privileged group resources, I think. But yeah, in PIM, I can join a role or join a group, and that group is assigned to a role, and then PIM can make it expire after a certain amount of time. It's in the portal. It's also in the API. It is called Privileged Access Groups, aka.ms/PAG, P-A-G. There it is. And this will take you to the docs for it. So it's super cool. That's almost brand new. We just tried it last week and we loved it. So PIM is super cool. I've never really been like super deep on all the admin stuff of Azure AD, but man, PIM is super awesome. Like, I have no standing administrators in my tenant anymore. Everybody has to elevate whenever they need rights. Okay, so we got our first call to go find all of our subscriptions, right? And the reason we need to know all the subscriptions we have access to is because we need them in the next call. So, so we're just going to go get those, and then we parse through the JSON that comes back so we can get our subscription IDs for all of those. So right now we're doing a for each through these subscriptions, and there's sort of a reason behind it, but we can also probably clean it up by making a single call. So then the next call calls the resource graph. And that resource graph, here's our query, right? Resource containers where the expires tag is null. We want the name and the subscription that comes back. And this will be everything, everything in that subscription that the managed service identity has access to. We don't actually need to iterate through the subscriptions because we can send subscriptions as a we send subscriptions in here as part of the request. So if we look back at our Postman request from earlier, you'll notice there's subscriptions here, and this is actually a string array. So in here, we would put all of our individual subscriptions, subscription 1, subscription 2, and because we have a select on to pull back the name and the subscription ID, that should be enough. So we can make one graph call instead of iterating through our subscriptions. In fact, we'll go ahead and do that now. So, once we're done with that, and there was a little bit of a discussion that Christos and I had earlier, right? If we look back at the PowerShell that was using, that was iterating through all of the different things, it absolutely works. The potential risk is that we would lose the ability to parallelize it later. So for 200 resource groups in your subscription, whatever, if you've got 20 subscriptions and 200 resource groups in each one of those, that's going to get pretty wide pretty quickly. And we want to figure out to what granularity can we parallelize our operations. And so searching through resource groups, searching through the tags, each one of those is sort of parallelizable. And then we would toss that over to something else to go and do the actual work, like tag it or delete it or whatever. So so while functions themselves will scale out very broadly, we still have to make sure the work that we're giving the functions can be broken up into small enough units of work that we can do them in multiple places at one time. And if we look at, get my notepad back up here. If we look at the loop code, for example, like this is going to happen. Maybe we do a skip and a take here. So we skip one and we queue up 10 workers to go off and do each one of these. Maybe we do a skip on the resource groups. We get back here and we just queue these up to go and get work done. So we can start to look at places that we can parallelize this work, so that we can spread it out over a high number of individual instances.
Durable functions, yeah.
Durable functions could work too, because there's some workflow sort of involved. The thing is, most of the work that we need to do is in some ways fire and forget work. So we don't actually need to collate them back. So we might fan out, but then we also, would have to fan back in. Let's see. ARM has a limit of management calls of 15,000 requests per hour. So we want to batch as much and query as much as possible from a single shot. Yeah, exactly. So that's sort of the... If we were iterating through here, we'd be generating quite a few different calls. However, I don't know... So Alex, what would be the benefit of a... what would be the benefit of a durable function here? Because we don't really actually need to fan back in, because we're essentially gonna have a really long list that comes back from our single query, right? So the return from this is gonna be a list of resource groups, and then we're just gonna go queue those up to go have work done on them. But the results of that work, we don't really need to orchestrate back up here to do anything, because here, once those resource groups have been queued for tagging, they go get tagged and the data's in a queue and we're kind of done. I mean, durable functions use a bunch of queues too. So it's kind of like, do we do it on our own, or do we do it on our own, or do we try to do it with durable functions?
High degree of parallelism, as the orchestrator does not have to await.
Yeah, I mean, we're not going to be awaiting. We're not going to be. So essentially, the way we had thought about this anyway was we're going to get our list, right? So at this point now we've got our list of. At this point, we have our list of subscription IDs and resources to be tagged, right?
Yep.
And from here, all we were really going to do is just push these into a queue. And then another function will go and tag them. The tagging function will go and pick them up off of that queue and get to work. But this function here, so if we're in the scanning function here, the scanning function, once these messages are in the queue, it doesn't really care. It's gone. It's leaving. So all this is really doing is scanning, which we don't even need to worry about the scan right now, because instead of using the scan, we're going to use the resource graph. So we're going to have one call that gets us back everything that we need to go and work on, and then all that work's going to get queued up, and then a bunch of other things are going to go and do the another function is going to actually go handle the tagging work itself. But the calling function doesn't care about that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Maybe we should look at durable functions on Tuesday and see if there's something we will get that we don't have to do on our own.
Maybe we should look at durable functions one Tuesday, because the rest of the month is going to be actually quite busy. Next week we have somebody coming to build stuff with us. So that means that we won't have a chance to actually... Oh, we might get a little bit of time, because I think our guest is from 7 to 9 Pacific time, which means that we may have to, we may get an hour to work on our stuff, which I think is great.
So the only reason I'm kind of like not sure if we really need fan out, fan in is wait for all functions to finish. We don't actually care if all the functions finish.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And the reason for putting them in the queue is for us, so that if one of the other functions was to die during the tagging or whatever, that it continues to get processed by the other workers, and then eventually go off to a poison queue.
Yeah, for us, it's fire and forget, stick it in the queue, and then done.
Yeah, so then our other functions, the tagging function, for example, however many instances roll up for that, because it's going to batch some of them off of the queue anyway. If that function was to fail, for example, then those queue messages would reappear, and the next thing could go and try to process them. So
yeah,
maybe Durable Functions does that for us, and we're reinventing a wheel that doesn't need to be reinvented. Certainly wouldn't be the first time, but yeah, I don't know. We'll have to look and see.
Something definitely to consider for next time. But to be honest,
yeah, we'll look and see.
I worry that we're over-architecting now stuff.
Well, we probably are, because it sounds like we should be using Durable anyway. But I don't know. We'll have to think about it. Figure out which way.
Maybe we do spend an hour next week looking into how Durable Functions can help us do it. Because to be honest, I haven't really touched much in Durable Functions. I haven't had a chance to put them into the test.
Well, I've used them in the past for doing like proper, like a workflow, like where I needed results to come back, and I didn't want to deal with queuing different work in different places. But I don't know. Yeah, we'll have to look and see.
Just make sure to put resulted lists of results or resources in the result of an activity, rather than calculate that on the orchestrator. Yeah. Happy to help. Alex, I think you've just been voluntold to jump on the stream with us and help us out. Let's see how our schedule looks like, because we have a packed month this time. Let me get in touch with you offline, Alex, and see what we can come up with.
Yeah,
something that works for everyone. But yeah, I mean, it would be nice to get a different perspective, because we do have a certain mindset of how we can resolve issues on our end, or how we can implement a solution. So having a different perspective is always nice.
Yep.
Yeah.
And we have a pull request, but I guess we'll get to that next week, because it's.
What is the pull request about? I mean, quickly, we got 1 minute.
So we had a good friend, went and built essentially the went and built all of the I can think straight. Went and built all of the automation for deployment for us, and GitHub Actions for build and deploy.
Oh,
none other than Corey Cowell. So he wrote all of the ARM templates for deployment and some GitHub Actions to do it, which is super cool. So thank you, Thank you, Kokala, and we will.
Did he do it for his Hacktoberfest?
Well, he only did 2, so no. But we'll send him. We'll make sure he gets the best T-shirt possible,
and some stickers. Why not?
Yeah, so it'll be cool, because this way we'll start to get auto deploy once we merge it in. So yeah, cool. All right.
Sweet.
Well, I guess we got to roll. Leave us a comment.
Thanks, everyone.
Leave us a comment and tell us if you want us to keep doing PowerShell, or if you want us to go to C#. We will be back on Tuesday of next week. I don't even know what day it is anymore. I've completely given up on trying to think straight. We will be back on Tuesday
and Thursday, but
for now,
this might change. By the way, we have a poll out there. We may have to change our times and days. So stick with us. Let us know what you feel and what you would like us to do. But we're open.
Yep.
Whatever works best for you guys.
Yep. Let us know. All right, everybody. Thanks for hanging out with us, and we will see you on Tuesday. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week. Bye.
Yes, exactly. Bye.